The experts who gathered in Budapest were united on one issue. There's a battle raging against Jews and the State of Israel. The battleground is the internet, websites and social media. And it's being waged by what the conference called enemies of freedom.
Social media has turned out to be a very powerful weapon in the campaign against Jews and against Israel. By being the voice of many people, millions of people throughout the world, and allowing their own words to come through unedited, unfiltered.
It was Henry Ford who first expressed concern over what he called the international Jew.
The problem is clear enough. What's much harder is to agree on an effective strategy to combat the flood of vicious hate speech and scapegoating that flourishes in what is essentially a legal no man's land.
Needed some easy money.
We need the law, because what we have to do is to make sure that when someone actually oversteps a particular red line, he will face the music. And the music here is the music of the law, and he should end up in jail.
Others at the conference disagree, arguing that censorship and tough legislation against hate speech might have worked once, as they did in Germany after the Shoah, but at this late stage would be ineffective and even counterproductive.
You really can't stop it by the law, because the people who actually support this kind of parties or speeches, they will feel that the state is indeed against them and against what they think, and it will only reinforce them rather than deter them from having these opinions.
The most fundamental common thread in Judaism is making money from money.
There's always the danger that censorship would feed the same conspiracy theories that it's trying to eliminate. Theories that big government is out to get them, and that big government is the puppet of international finance, a code word for the Jews. And in any case, how do you argue with conspiracy theories that sound like this?
One of the pretty typical conspiracy theory on the extreme right is that Jews are buying up the country via real estate investments. It means that they build up office buildings, but the real purpose of that is that Israeli settlements will come here.
In order to confront that community of hate, there are those who say the champions of freedom need to create their own web-based communities.
They need to be able to find groups that are more scattered, if you like, and still have a sense in which there's a kind of mobilization, a kind of solidarity. It's not that different, actually, when you think about it from, early socialism, where you felt a solidarity with the working class, whether or not, it was in your immediate neighborhood or whether it was across the globe. It was, working people of the world unite. So it's a new version.
What is evident is that the internet is here to stay, and from now on, political battles will be increasingly won and lost in the social media. Based on its research, the Political Capital Institute, which hosted the conference, had a few tips on how to deal with the dark side of the web. Director Peter Kreko says, don't overreact to hate speech. That leads to fear and even the emigration of Jews from Europe, which he says is exactly what the anti-Semites want. Also, he insists, we need to come up with a whole new way to combat internet rants.
I think even the overall human rights rhetoric should be renewed somehow, and new arguments should be found that can be catchy for the youngsters as well, because right now what we can see is that sometimes intolerant ideologies are much more catchy for the youngsters than the tolerant ones, and it was not always the case.
In other words, get original, get outrageous, get creative, and beat the spouters of hate at their own game. Leah Zinder in Budapest.